Dragon Ball has been going through immense amounts of changes and genres in the video game industry, from the experimentation of a dual formula to huge productions with RPG elements and online sections. In the year 2020, we would be presented with a new title, one that promised to take the story of Dragon Ball Z, so many times told in video games, to the next level, on graphic, mechanics and fidelity. On January 17th, 2020, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot was born. It's been a huge and incredible journey through the most important Dragon Ball games in history. We have spent months analyzing each one of them, and we knew the culmination would come at this point. Today is the day we'll talk about Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. If this video manages to reach 200 likes, we will make the conclusion of this journey have the recognition it deserves. This will be the first part of the review, since this game has a lot of content. So without more to say, let's get started. This is a tremendous journey, both in duration and spectacularity. We started the game with an introduction tracted from what the visual art is in the opening of the anime, being faithful with the material of that time. This is serious for the developers. The concept of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot was born from the idea of making this story progressively told like an RPG, adding all its elements to make the sense of immersion greater than anything we have ever seen. The game was initially announced as Project Z. Based on this idea, the story introduces us with a reunion battle with Piccolo, using this to teach us the controls, which introduces a lot of uncommon mechanics in combat sections in Dragon Ball games, but we will talk about that more in depth later. They hit us with the beginning of the Saiyan Saga. It may sound cliché by this point, but believe me that this saga rarely has so much background with these characters, even in Raditz, which has been treated since immemorable times as the typical introductory villain to any game of this franchise. They give each character their space and time to shine in their own way, even if they become temporary to the story. I've never seen such a detailed approach to the character's everyday life, and that is something that is missing on many opportunities to transmit the emotions indicated when the climax is reached. They immediately place us within a map with procedural regeneration, a landscape, free roam movement. This is an open world, and even if it doesn't meet the standards of that definition in its entirety, they still allow us to have a freedom that in other games is almost non-existent. This happens with the walks that Goku and Gohan used to take in the mountains near their house, giving us an explanation of how the collection of the objects and secondary activities work, like fishing with the tail. Excuse me, I'll never understand the need of having this in the game. Graphically, the game is easily in the top 3 of the best detailed games made by CyberConnect, having Demon Slayer as the main contender for the best. Sorry, but that game just looks ridiculous. Kakarot changes the course a little, going a little away from the styles already seen in previous years, such as Raging Blast. The game looks excellent with its own style, and in any way manages to perfectly emulate the fidelity of the series. We cannot complain about the graphics, that is evident. However, even though the exploration mode offers fun activities and feels very comfortable to use Goku or other characters in the world, it's in moments like this where I realize why open world video games masters are what they are. You can notice the difference of what is a complementary section of a game and what is a specialized game system to be open world as such. Many times using the Saiyans in Kakarot, you feel that they have movements a little out of date for the territory in which they are, and that makes sense. They are beings that can travel at light speeds, but if we compare this section of movement with what games like Spider-Man or Nier Automata, we will realize that Kakarot lacks the accuracy of movement. There are no fully controlled motion characteristics. They are simply programmed to move at a certain speed and distance, and then their environment is designed. Instead, here the environment is designed based on the mobility of the characters. That is what gives them that comfortable look when playing them. And even though Kakarot lacks this, I want to highlight that in any way it's a game that kinesthetically feels very pleasant and successful. Why didn't I highlight this feature in games like Infinite World? Well, because these two games are 12 years apart from each other. These achievements in motion sensation were achieved in great part thanks to the technical advances of that time. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is full of things to do. Without lying to you, it's the anime game with the most features to exploit that I have ever seen, even above Xenoverse, so much that it can feel overwhelming. They explain so many things to you every 2 minutes at the beginning of the game. It's a world that really feels alive. In that, they achieved something incredible. As we established before, this game has many RPG elements and CyberConnect take it seriously. The entire gameplay scheme revolves around RPG characteristics that we could see in niche games. In addition to being able to use more characters than just Goku, these all have a level of progression. You can collect different kinds of objects that give you benefits, memories with iconic moments of the series that are spread around there, food that can be consumed and give you certain extra attributes, or you can cook them so that they have a greater effect. This way you also create recipes with the combinations. Also, it's the first time that I see that they take advantage of the Saiyan's voracious appetite to improve our attributes permanently. We already mentioned tail fishing. You have Z orbs which allow you to unlock special attacks, you can receive items from different characters and use them as tools in the middle of a combat. The world of Kakarot is more alive than any other media I've ever seen this story in. Fishes, dinosaurs, hostile creatures, humans, there's a bit of everything and we can interact with each of them. Otherwise it would only be a background material. The world is explorable far beyond. Cities have borders and you can search whatever you want in them, and none will be exactly the same as the previous one. They have their own unique characteristics. The characters who accompany you on the adventure can also act as a support in the middle of any combat, and without letting away that everyone has a friendship progression system. They are relationships that are forced as the story progresses. By giving them gifts and doing them favors, you can establish a closer relationship with them, and it will obviously have positive effects on the combats. There are elements related even to the weather. Clouds create different environments depending on their quantity and height. You can notice by the shadows in the landscape. You can even move underwater in exploration. Obviously you have an air meter and you will not be able to hold in there forever. I cannot fit in a single video everything that can be done in the game in the way of side quests and collectibles. But well, let's not waste more time. As we know, Raditz arrives on Earth. Goku and Piccolo must face him by being the most capable duo on the planet to face Goku's unknown brother. Both don't appear to be rival for him, but as we know, Gohan awakens a power capable of seriously injuring Raditz, enough to give Piccolo an opportunity to end him, but at the cost of Goku's life. After the death of the protagonist, I'm very pleased how they don't hurry to put us face the next enemy of the saga. As I said before, they take their time. They make waiting a crucial element so that the biggest moments of tension have a greater effect. Honestly, it's the closest thing to the story we watched on television when we were children, even in the rhythm of the events. While Edma asks Goku a questionnaire at the entrance on the other world, Gohan starts his training with Piccolo. I've never seen such a pronounced emphasis in this part of the series, and I really appreciate it very much. I may have found it strange that they decided to give more weight in story and gameplay to Gohan's training on Earth than Goku's journey on the other world, knowing that they both happen simultaneously. But then you realize that Gohan's Odyssey fitted much better with the gameplay features of the game. It will look much more organic. In the middle of dinosaur hunting, fights with Piccolo and transformations into great apes, Goku reaches the end of the snake path and meets King Kai, an individual who sees in Goku a great opportunity to teach him his most deadly techniques. Meanwhile, on Earth, everyone is preparing for the arrival of the Saiyans, until they enter the scene. The battle between the Z warriors who have have trained a whole year to protect the Earth begins. One by one, the fighters fall until only Gohan, Piccolo, and Krillin remain. However, a devastating attack from Nappa ends Piccolo's life in a last effort to save Gohan's life. By the way, I would like to highlight that the moment of Piccolo's death did not have an outcoming as in the original material, with Gohan unloading the first Masenko against Nappa with all his fury. It seemed a small mistake to me since they were trying to better accommodate each situation into the story. With only seconds left for Nappa to crush Gohan, Goku finally arrives on the battlefield, easily finishing Nappa after seeing his fallen companions. Vegeta relentlessly pulverizes Nappa after the fight with Goku, and now they are preparing to start the decisive duel. Talking about how Goku finished Nappa so easily with the Kaioken, in previous games we've seen how this technique is implemented as an attribute improvement, increasing the damage and speed. Sometimes it could be used only as a special move, but now it's a transformation that gives the same benefits but over time will make us lose health. A decision that, from my point of view, I consider correct because it's the most appropriate that this technique can be to the standards of a game, without separating from its true use in the series. A deadly technique that wears you down with every second you use it. The Saiyan opponents change the location of the fight and it's time for the encounter to be unleashed with everything they have. Finding himself against the lower class Saiyan, Vegeta resources to using all his power in an attack which is answered by Goku, a stronger Kamehameha than any other he has created before. Yet Vegeta was still alive, and resorting to desperation he creates an artificial moon to become a great ape, multiplying his power incredibly. Goku is left without any possibility to beat the transformed Vegeta and completely at his mercy, even with his last resource, which was the Spirit Bomb. Even so, Gohan and Krillin return to Goku's rescue, failing in the attempt to cut off Vegeta's tail so that he'd return to normality, but finally accomplishing it with the help of Yajirobe. Gohan and Krillin managed to give a critical hit to Vegeta with Goku's Spirit Bomb, but it was still not enough. With an almost miraculous moment, Gohan's tail grows again and transforms into Great Ape with the Vegeta's artificial moon. Even though the Saiyan manages to cut off Gohan's tail without receiving much damage, he falls on him, still completely transformed, leaving him out of combat. So, due to a favor that Goku asks to Krillin, he spares his life. Goku promised to face him again one day and beat him. There are several things here to highlight. The first thing is that I don't know when the day will come in which some game does a special honor to the moment in which Goku uses the Kaioken ×3 against Vegeta, putting his body to the limit. It's a crucial moment in the series where everything is at stake and it just seems that the games overlook this fact, giving more emphasis to the beam struggle between the Kamehameha and the Gali gun. I faithfully believed this was going to be the game that finally did it, but I was wrong. They almost lead to understand that Goku was above Vegeta at his base level, and the truth is that Goku was still much weaker than Vegeta. The second thing is that Gohan's transformation into Great Ape lasts practically 30 seconds. In the same cinematic, his transformation is finished, maybe to save resources, but a variant of this mission with Great Ape Gohan fighting with Vegeta would not have been bad at all. And finally, it's very interesting how they go from one saga to another as if it was the end of the chapters of the series with Goku's voice over narration and images of the next episodes. In addition, the original soundtrack of the anime fits perfectly and there's no greater sense of attachment to the story than having the soundtrack itself setting the cinematics and missions. Now Gohan, Bulma and Krillin are heading to Namek, Piccolo's home planet, to reunite the original Dragon Balls and be able to revive everyone. But they are not the only ones in search for that desire. The Emperor Frieza, someone who King Kai himself is afraid of, is on the same task. When arriving on the planet, Frieza and his minions are massacring the Namekians in search of all the Dragon Balls. On the journey, Gohan and Krillin ally with several villagers who earn their trust. In this way, they both access their hidden power power thanks to the Old Man Guru. At the same time, Vegeta wants to achieve immortality with the Dragon Balls and begins to destroy one by one the closest men to Frieza with the new power that he acquired with the Senkai boost. Kui, Dodoria, and Sarbon all fall at the hands of the Saiyan Prince. Here the game allows us to switch between various POVs of both the Earthlings and Vegeta, but more than anything it's about getting from point A to point B. Along all the confusion, Frieza summons the most important elite forces of his army, the Ginyu forces, so they can recover the Dragon Balls that Vegeta took from them. So they intercept them and the duel begins to survive against Frieza's most dangerous elite soldiers. Guldo is the most rookie opponent and is defeated almost immediately by Krillin and Gohan, but the real nightmare would start with Rikum, one of the strongest members of the group. Vegeta does everything possible to keep up with him, but he cannot do great damage to him. That's when Goku arrives in Namek to end the fight once and for all. Having trained in 100 times increased gravity, he now can demonstrate what he's capable of. And here I think it's important to highlight how, as the characters advance with their power levels and techniques, the game allows you to assign them each time they return to the scene, giving us a much more precise feeling of progression. In this way, Goku intercepts the Ginyu forces, demonstrating his superiority. He finishes Rikum and Barter, but Jis manages to escape and bring Captain Ginyu with him. This has a base power similar to Goku, but when he is cornered when using the Kaioken, he steals Goku's body, leaving him with a completely beat up body. In the end, with the help of Vegeta, they manage to get his body back to Goku, and Ginyu is trapped in the body of a frog. However, this is where everything gets complicated. Emperor Frieza realized how he was tricked into summoning Purunga, dragon of Namek's Dragon Balls. This way they revived Piccolo and he was sent directly to his home planet. However, Frieza intercepts them and now they all must survive the wrath of a Frieza who shows only chaos and desperation with each of his transformations. Piccolo trained on the planet of King Kai just like Goku, and now after fusing with Nail, the most powerful warrior left in Namek gets a huge power increase, enough to hold Frieza for a while. However, he still has 2 more transformations left and manages to defeat everyone. In the middle of these events, Dende dies and can no longer heal anyone else in the fight. At that precise moment, Goku recovers from the conflict with Ginyu and immediately arrives on the battlefield. This is where Vegeta dies, and Goku, with a Senkai bigger than anything we've seen before, confronts the Emperor. This is where I would like to highlight the good choices of the scenes chosen for this fight. Being the longest in the entire Dragon Ball story, they had enough material, and I think it's great that they have probably chosen one of my favorite scenes in the entire story, Goku's Kaioken times 20, a moment that in the series is determining for the progress of the fight. Goku finding himself overcome by Frieza, who is only using 50% of his power, and without being able to do anything even with the Kaioken multiplied by 10, he remembers his reasons to fight and protect everything his companions have sacrificed themselves for, increasing the Kaioken up to 20, putting his body to the very limit and managing to connect a couple of good hits on Frieza, but not even that was enough. It's a moment that in the series ties a lot to the situations that the protagonists are going through. It makes your skin give up. It's a very Dragon Ball moment. However, Goku still has his last resource, the Spirit Bomb. After gathering a devastating energy, he manages to launch it. With absolutely zero chances that Frieza has survived, he appears in front of the protagonist and leaves Piccolo in a critical state and kills Krillin in front of his best friend. Goku's had enough, and in both body and spirit, he finally transforms into the legendary Super Saiyan. I would like the game to let the player play around with Frieza just like Goku did in the series, giving him a rain of blows and completely humiliating him. However, the status of the fight is still basic, but now we have a buff in damage and mobility. Frieza finally unleashes 100% of his power, but he cannot even counter the immense skill that Goku now possesses. With the last wish, the Dragon Balls revive all those who were killed by Frieza, and they are transported to Earth except from Goku and Frieza. Losing his mind, Frieza is finally killed by one of his own attacks, and even after a bit of unjustified compassion from Goku, he still tried to kill him, but it was the last mistake he would make. This way, the Frieza saga concludes, and in the same way, the first part of this review. Remember to give a lot of support with your likes and comments for this video so that I can bring you the second part of this review where we will talk about the rest of the story that the game covers and more in depth about its combat system. Guys, thank you very much for getting to the end of the video. That was all for today, and I'll be watching you in the next video. Take care and see ya.